The longest night, the wind howled through the broken shutters of the farmhouse. Moonlight filtered through a cracked window, casting long shadows across the bare wooden floor. Inside, silence reigned except for the soft breathing of two sleeping children, curled together under a tattered wool blanket. Mira sat beside them, her back to the cold wall. Her eyes, hollow from weeks of grief and fear, stayed fixed on the door. It wasn't locked. It couldn't be. The last lock they had was smashed when the soldiers came. Her husband, Tomas, had been taken a month ago, dragged away, by those who wore the royal crest but no longer served the crown. Raiders, mercenaries. They didn't bother explaining why. Just took him and left her with nothing but a small sack of flour and the two children. Most of the villagers had fled or fallen silent behind shuttered doors. No one dared interfere. That night, the forest just beyond their field seemed to whisper, not just the usual creak of trees or rustle of wildlife. This whisper felt deliberate, like someone or something was watching. She pulled her shawl tighter, stifling a shiver. Maybe it was the hunger. Maybe it was the fear. Or maybe it was the feeling that tonight, something would change, in the trees beyond the field. A figure crouched beneath the canopy, still as a stone. The warrior had watched the farmhouse for days. Ever since he spotted the smoke trail and the frightened deer that bolted from the edge of the woods. He saw the woman bring water from the well with trembling hands, saw her gather herbs and boil them without firewood, saw the bruises along her arms when her sleeve slipped. The signs were all there. He didn't speak. He rarely did anymore. They called him the Silent One, though not to his face. Most didn't know his name. Many thought he was dead, a ghost of the old wars. He preferred it that way. The woman didn't know it yet, but she had a guardian. It was near midnight when Mira heard its boots crunching the gravel outside. Her heart leaped into her throat. She reached for the small knife hidden under the straw mat, barely bigger than a paring blade. The door creaked, slowly, deliberately. A man stepped inside. Not a soldier but close. A black coat, patched with dried mud and blood. A grin too wide for his face. "Evenin', Dove," he said, drawing a rusty sword from his belt. "Thought I'd check if the little birds were still chirping in this nest." Mira stood, trembling but tall. "Get out," he laughed. "Or, what, gonna stab me with a spoon?" She took one step forward. Her hand gripped the knife so tightly her knuckles turned white. Then something moved behind the man. A blur in the darkness, fast, silent. The intruder didn't even have time to turn. A heavy arm wrapped around his neck, pulling him back. There was no scream, only a grunt, a thud, and then silence. Myra gasped. A second figure stood in the doorway now, taller, cloaked in black, his face hidden by a dark hood, his armor dull and worn but still solid. He held a long-bladed staff, slick with rain and blood. She backed away instinctively, shielding the children with her body. "I'm not here to harm you," the man said, quietly, voice deep and deliberate. It was the first human voice she'd heard in days. "Who are you?" she whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he dragged the unconscious intruder outside and dumped him into the dirt. He returned a moment later and gently closed the broken door. "My name doesn't matter," he said, "but no one will hurt you again. Not while I'm here." A stranger in the shadows, the morning sun spilled weakly through the dusty window panes. Mira's eyes fluttered open, still heavy with exhaustion and dreams haunted by the previous night's terror. For the first time in weeks, the house felt less empty, less broken. She glanced at her children, asleep side by side. Their faces, usually pale and drawn, had a faint glow in the morning light. It was as if hope had seeped into their small room overnight. Her gaze shifted to the corner, where the warrior sat, his silhouette still framed by the cracked doorway. He was awake, his head bowed low, eyes unreadable beneath his hood. Mira swallowed hard. "Who are you? Why do you help us?" He looked up slowly, his eyes dark and steady, but not unkind. "I'm no one you need to know. I was passing through the woods when I heard the trouble. I don't let innocent people suffer if I can help it." "Passing through," Myra echoed, skepticism threading her voice. He nodded once. "I was a soldier once. A long time ago. I've seen too much death and injustice to stand by anymore. Now I wander, and protect those who can't protect themselves." Myra studied him. His armor was battered, his cloak torn in places, but his presence was commanding a silent strength that filled the room. Her oldest, a boy of 7, named Eli, stirred awake. When he saw the stranger, he froze, clutching his mother's hand tightly. "Mom, who is he?" Before Mira could answer, the warrior stood and reached into a worn leather pouch. He pulled out a loaf of bread still warm, freshly baked. "Eat," he said simply, offering it to Eli. The boy hesitated, then took the bread. "Thank you," he mumbled. Myra looked down at her own empty hands, and then back at the stranger. "Where did you get this?" He smiled faintly. "Let's just say I have my ways." For the first time in days, Myra felt tears prick her eyes. They were tears of relief, not sorrow, but safety was fragile. Outside the farmhouse, the world was still dangerous. The raiders who had taken Tomas were not known for mercy. They ruled the nearby villages with fear, taking what they wanted, burning what they didn't. The warrior moved through the village with the quiet confidence of someone who knew every shadow and alley. He watched the men who now acted as lords of this broken land, noting their patrols and routines. "They'll come back," Mira said quietly one night as they huddled near the fire. "They always do," he replied, "but this time, you won't be alone." The warrior began teaching Eli how to hold a wooden staff, showing him simple stances to defend himself. "Strength isn't just muscle," he said, "it's knowing when to stand and when to move." Eli was eager, hungry for hope and purpose. For the first time, his eyes sparkled with something other than fear. As days passed, the warrior's presence changed the rhythm of the household. He hunted small game, brought fresh water from the forest, and taught Myra to fortify the farmhouse. Each night he sat silently by the fire, keeping watch. Myra's heart began to thaw. She no longer saw him as a stranger but as a guardian, perhaps even a chance to reclaim what had been lost. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mira found the courage to ask what weighed on her mind. "What will happen when they come back? The men who took Tomas?" The warrior's face darkened beneath the hood. "Then we fight. We fight for your family. For your home." She nodded, her resolve hardening. "We had no one," she whispered. "Until you came." He stood, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You never were alone. You just needed to see it." The first threat the following morning dawned crisp and cold, with a pale sun barely warming the fields. Myra's home, once a place marked by silence and despair, now buzzed faintly with life and preparation. The warrior moved with purpose, his eyes sharp as he inspected the doors and windows, searching for weak points. "Can we really stop them?" Mira asked quietly, wrapping a threadbare shawl tighter around her shoulders. The warrior looked at her, his expression unreadable beneath the hood. "If we don't try, they win without a fight." Outside, Eli practiced blocking strikes with his wooden staff, his small face set with determination. The boy's enthusiasm sparked a smile from Mira, something she hadn't felt in months. Maybe her children could still have a future. Suddenly, a faint crack echoed from the edge of the forest, broken twigs, a rustle of leaves. The warrior stiffened, motioning for silence. "They're close," he whispered. "Get inside, stay quiet." Mira grabbed her daughter Lila's hand, guiding her and Eli into the small cellar beneath the farmhouse. The wooden trapdoor closed, with a muffled thud, sealing them away from the danger outside. From the cellar, they could hear footsteps, heavy, purposeful. Men shouting curses and commands in harsh voices. The warrior stepped out to face them. The raiders approached in a rough formation, their leader barking orders. His face was cruel and scarred, eyes full of menace. "We know you've got someone hiding here," he snarled. "Hand him over, or this place burns." From the shadows, the warrior emerged. His voice was low, steady. "You will not harm this family." Laughter erupted from the raiders. "Who's going to stop us? You?" The warrior's grip tightened on his staff, muscles coiling like a spring. Then, with a sudden fluid motion, he struck. The battle was fierce but brief. The warrior moved like a shadow, silent, deadly. His staff swept through the air, striking raiders with precise blows that knocked weapons aside or sent men crashing to the ground. Mira watched from the cellar stairs, heart pounding. Eli squeezed her hand tight, eyes wide with fear and awe. When the last raider fell, groaning on the dirt, the warrior turned to Mira. "They won't be back, at least, not for a while." Relief washed over her, but she knew this was only the beginning. That night, as the family gathered around a flickering fire, the warrior finally shared more of his story. "I was once like them," he began, voice heavy with regret. "A soldier, who fought for power, not justice. I lost everything because of my mistakes. Since then, I've vowed to protect those who can't protect themselves." Mira looked at him, the weight of his words sinking in. "Why us?" "Because you reminded me of what I lost," he said simply. A family. A home. For the first time, Mira saw not just a warrior, but a man haunted by his past, fighting for redemption. Days turned into weeks. Under the warrior's guidance, the farmhouse became a stronghold. Eli and Lila learned not only to defend themselves but also to dream again. Mira, too, found strength growing inside her. The pain of loss was still there, but it was now balanced by a flicker of hope. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mira and the warrior stood side by side, watching the children play. They have a chance, he said quietly. Because we stand together. Mira nodded, feeling the truth of his words in her bones. Shadows of the past, the days after the skirmish passed in a tense rhythm. The warrior remained vigilant, patrolling the woods by day and keeping watch by night. Mira and her children adjusted to the new reality of fragile peace held together by the silent guardian's presence. Yet beneath the surface, a deeper danger loomed. One evening, while Mira was gathering herbs near the edge of the forest, she spotted something that sent a chill through her spine. A small, crude symbol carved into a tree, a marking she recognized from whispered village tales. It was the sign of the raiders' leader, a cruel man named Garvin, known for his brutality and cunning. That same night, the warrior sat by the fire, polishing his worn blade. Mira approached hesitantly. You know him, she said softly, nodding toward the carved tree. He looked up, eyes clouded with memories. Garvin was once my brother in arms. We fought side by side until greed and ambition tore us apart. Mira's breath caught. If he's here, we're in more danger than ever. The warrior nodded slowly. Garvin won't stop until he breaks everything I'm trying to protect. As the moon rose high, shadows shifted beyond the trees. Garvin's men prowled the outskirts of the village, searching for their prey. The warrior moved silently among the trees, tracking their movements with practiced ease. He had faced Garvin before, once a friend, now a bitter enemy. Their past was tangled with betrayal, blood, and lost honor. Mira's children slept unaware of the danger creeping closer. But the warrior's resolve hardened. This fight is not just for you, he said. It's for every innocent soul. Threatens. The next morning, Mira found a small note pinned to her door, a warning from Garvan. Leave the forest, or watch your home burn. Fear threatened to overwhelm her, but the warrior's calm presence steadied her. We won't run, she said firmly. No, he agreed. We stand, and we fight. Together, they began preparing the farmhouse for the inevitable storm. Traps were set along the perimeter. Makeshift barricades reinforced doors and windows. Eli practiced relentlessly, his young face set with fierce determination. One evening, as the sun bled red on the horizon, the first attack came. Garvin's men emerged from the forest like ghosts, silent and deadly. They moved to surround the farmhouse, intent on breaking in and claiming victory. But the warrior was ready. The battle that followed was brutal and desperate. The warrior fought with a fierce grace, moving like the wind, striking down attackers. With a fury fueled by past wounds and present hope, Mira and the children watched from the cellar, their hearts pounding with every clash of steel. When dawn finally broke, the raiders lay defeated or fled into the forest, nursing their wounds. The warrior stood among the ruins of the battlefield, bruised but unbroken. In the quiet after the fight, Mira approached him, her voice trembling. Why do you risk so much for us? He looked at her, eyes softened by exhaustion. Because you gave me something I thought I'd lost forever, a reason to fight. The sun rose higher, casting light on a battered farmhouse surrounded by scars of battle. They had no one before. Now they had each other. Bonds forged in fire. The farmhouse, though scarred from the recent battle, stood firm against the morning sun. Myra and her children emerged from the cellar, blinking in the harsh light of a new day. Around them, the quiet woods seemed to breathe. With cautious relief, Eli ran to the warrior, throwing his arms around the tall, silent figure. You saved us, he whispered fiercely. The warrior's face softened just slightly beneath his hood. You helped save yourselves. Courage grows stronger when you fight for what you love. Mira wiped a stray tear from her cheek. For the first time, she felt something she hadn't dared hope for: belonging. In the days that followed, the farmhouse became more than just a shelter. It was a home reborn through struggle and determination. The warrior taught Eli and Lila how to read the signs of the forest, how to track footsteps and predict danger. Knowledge is the best weapon, he told them. Under his tutelage, the children grew stronger, braver. Eli's confidence blossomed, no longer a scared boy but a young protector in training. Lila, with her quick eyes and sharp mind, learned to move silently through the trees, like the warrior himself. Mira, too, found strength. She repaired what she could of the house and tended to the children's wounds after their training. The silent warrior's presence gave her courage she never imagined she still had. One evening, around the fire, the warrior finally lowered his hood fully, revealing a face marked by years of hardship, deep lines from battles fought and lost, eyes that held both sorrow and fierce determination. "I wasn't always like this," he said quietly. "Once, I was proud and reckless. I made mistakes that cost me dearly." Mira listened, sensing the weight behind his words. "But meeting you and your children, it's given me a new purpose. To protect, to redeem." The children looked at him with wide eyes. The silent guardian, now a man they could trust. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. The warrior no longer remained a shadow but became a part of their family, a silent protector whose actions spoke louder than words. Yet, the threat of Garvin and his men still lingered like a storm on the horizon. One afternoon, while scouting the forest's edge, Eli stumbled upon a small clearing where fresh footprints marked the ground. He hurried back to the farmhouse, breathless. "They're planning another attack," he said, urgency in his voice. The warrior nodded grimly. "We have little time." Mira's heart raced, but she steadied herself. "We will be ready." Together, they prepared defenses, set traps, and fortified their home, ready to face whatever came. As night fell, the family stood together, united not by blood alone, but by the trials they had survived and the hope they now shared. They had no one before. Now, they had each other and a silent warrior who would stand against the darkness. The heart of the warrior, the forest, was alive with whispers of the coming storm. Days blended into nights as the preparations grew urgent. Mira watched the warrior move like a shadow, always alert, always ready. One evening, as the fire crackled, Mira asked the question that had lingered in her mind since the day he arrived. "Why did you stop running? Why do you fight for us now?" The warrior's eyes glimmered with a distant sadness. "Because I lost my family once. Because I failed to protect them." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I was a captain once, in a great war. I led men into battle, but my pride blinded me. I ignored warnings, trusted the wrong people. My village was burned, my wife and child taken from me." Mira's breath caught. "I wandered for years, haunted by guilt and regret. Until I found you. You reminded me what it means to protect not for glory, but for love." He looked at Eli and Lila, their faces bright with hope and courage. "Now, I fight not just with my blade, but with my heart." That night, Mira saw a new light in him. The warrior wasn't just a protector, he was a man seeking redemption through their survival. Eli approached the warrior quietly. "Will I ever be as strong as you?" The warrior smiled, a rare, genuine smile. "Strength comes from inside, Eli. From your choices. You're already braver than most." Lila nodded. "We'll keep learning." Together, they trained, laughed, and prepared for the challenges ahead. The bond between them grew deeper, a family forged, not by blood, but by shared trials. But Garvin's shadow loomed ever closer. One night, under a moonless sky, scouts reported a large raider force gathering beyond the hills. The final confrontation was inevitable. The warrior gathered Mira and the children. "We must stand together," he said. "This fight will test everything we've built." Mira gripped his hand tightly. "We're ready." As dawn approached, the farmhouse stood silent, but unyielding, a beacon of hope in a world of darkness. The final stand the night before the storm. The farmhouse stood quiet under a blanket of stars. Inside, Mira, Eli, and Lila gathered around the hearth, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. The warrior stood by the door, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "They'll come at dawn," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of certainty. Mira nodded, her heart heavy but resolute. "Then we'll be ready." As the first light of morning broke over the hills, the distant sound of hooves reached their ears. Garvin's men were approaching. The warrior turned to the family. "Stay inside. Trust me." With that, he disappeared into the shadows of the forest. The battle that ensued was fierce and unrelenting. Garvin's forces were numerous, but the warrior fought with a ferocity born of years of regret and a deep desire to protect the innocent. His movements were swift and precise, each strike a testament to his training and determination. Mira and her children watched from the safety of the farmhouse, their hearts pounding with each clash of steel. As the sun climbed higher, the sounds of battle began to fade. The warrior returned, bloodied but unbowed. "It's over," he said simply. Mira rushed to him, her eyes filled with gratitude and concern. "You're hurt." He nodded, his expression softening. It was worth it. In the days that followed, the village began to rebuild. Garvin's reign of terror had ended, and peace slowly returned to the land. The warrior, once a man haunted by his past, had found redemption through his actions. He had protected the widow and her children, and in doing so, had healed a part of himself. Myra stood at the edge of the forest, watching as the warrior disappeared into the trees. She knew he would never stay in one place for long, but she also knew he would always be there when needed. "You're not alone," she whispered, into the wind, and in the silence that followed, she felt his presence beside her. A silent protector who had become a part of their family.